So I was scrolling through X the other day and I came across a video that caught my attention. It was some body cam footage of a hostage situation where two police officers, what looks to be maybe around 5 to 7 yards away from the suspect, start firing and what seems like miss every single shot. Till eventually the suspect breaks away from the hostage and that's where they magged up his ass. And the video ends. Now, I'll be honest, this one video sent me down a rabbit hole where I ended up binge watching a bunch of hostage situation videos, which at one point had me wondering, outside of law enforcement or special forces, has there ever been a concealed carrier, just a regular civilian, encounter a hostage situation where they stepped in to stop the threat? Which, to my research, I wasn't able to find anything like that, at least nothing that's ever been recorded, which honestly kind of makes sense, because just off the top of my head, I can think of plenty of reasons why the average civilian concealed carrying probably shouldn't get involved in the first place. But what if it's not just any situation? What if it's a situation where your moral compass won't let you walk away knowing you could have done something? Or worse, what if it's your family being held hostage? That changes everything, which really makes you stop and think, are you capable of making a shot like that? Well, in today's video, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Now, while there are plenty of ways of stopping a threat in a hostage situation, like, I don't know, sneaking out from behind and cracking him with a pipe, or the good old undercover cop pretending to be a news reporter with a camera, today we're focusing on the most high-risk method, which is taking a fatal shot to the exposed head. Now, a lot of us have probably set up one of these hostage targets and have fired multiple rounds downrange, and while that's fun for target practice, in real life, it's a different story. In an actual hostage situation, you might only get one shot before the perpetrator harms the hostage. But if that one shot lands exactly where it's supposed to, one shot might be all it takes. And that's why today we're focusing on just that. Now, here's how it's going to go. Since I don't think anyone would be reckless enough to take a headshot in a hostage situation beyond 15 yards with a handgun, for this drill we're working with two different ranges, furthest being 7 yards and the closest 3 yards. Now, as for the target layout, the white side represents the hostage and the brown side represents the perpetrator. And because the goal is to neutralize the threat without harming the hostage, only headshots on the perpetrator are considered valid. Now, when it comes to the handguns, I brought out 3 different handgun sizes, my P365, my Glock 19, and last, my P320. Now, before we get into the testing, let's talk about the 2 different stances I use, both based on what I've seen in body cam footage. The first is the low ready stance, where my pistol is aimed directly towards the ground away from the suspect and hostage while using my left hand to communicate. The second is target ready, where my gun is aimed directly at the perpetrator waiting to take the shot. Now, the final part of this training exercise is deciding when to take the shot. For that, I use the shot timer to simulate the moment the perpetrator makes a clear move to harm or kill the hostage. As soon as the timer goes off, my job is to land a shot to the perpetrator's head as quickly as possible, without missing or hitting the hostage. Now, to start the drill, I began at 3 yards in a low ready stance, working through each firearm size from small to large. And as you can see, at the 3 yard mark, it's a piece of cake. The target is large enough where I can quickly raise my gun and get a sight picture and take the shot without too much coming into play. Now at 7 yards, you'll notice the time increases, nothing drastic, but definitely noticeable. This is mainly due to the added distance, reducing the target area visible. Now next up is target ready. which, as you can see, there really was no struggle at either 3 or 7 yards. The shots were fast and well placed. Now, it is important to understand that all these drills were intentionally done in a calm, controlled state of mind, which doesn't fully reflect what it would be like in real life when you're under stress, where your adrenaline's pumping, and your decision making under pressure. So to see the difference, I introduced some adrenaline into the equation and repeated all these drills to compare the difference. And as you can see, when you add a bit of adrenaline, even when you're target ready, you can see my time start to go up. Now this is mainly due to the adrenaline rush in my body. Now usually when I do this kind of adrenaline test, I don't have much trouble landing center mass shots, but because we are shooting at a much smaller area like the head, things change. I have to slow down, take my shots carefully to avoid hitting the hostage in this situation. Now, the low ready with added adrenaline definitely felt a lot more challenging. Not only are you dealing with the adrenaline rush, but you've also got to get your firearm up, get a proper sight picture, and have a smooth trigger pull to take the shot, which is a lot to manage when your heart's pounding, your hands aren't as steady, and even though your brain knows what to do, your body's rushing ahead, introducing all kinds of bad habits like trigger jerk. Now, for those who don't know what that is, it's pretty much when you yank the trigger, causing this motion to throw off your shot, usually hitting low or off to the side. Now, this is often caused when you're anticipating the recoil or just rushing to get your shot off too fast. Now, it's rare that I jerk the trigger during normal shooting, but when I was trying to hit a target that small with my heart racing and the clock ticking, I caught myself doing that multiple times, causing me to either miss the target completely or worse, hit the hostage. Now, there's a lot more to consider than just accidentally jerking the trigger. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a big one, but it's not the only factor. There's a lot of other challenges which unfortunately I wasn't able to fully demonstrate, at least not the way I would have liked to. For example, dealing with a moving target. In real life, the hostage and the perpetrator aren't going to stand still and wait for you to take your shot. They'll most likely be moving around, which makes hitting a precise shot way harder. Now, I did manage to add a little bit of movement into these drills. You'll notice in some clips, I'm shifting side to side while staying locked on the perpetrator's head. That was my way of simulating what it would be like to track a moving target. Now, last and probably the most important thing you'll most likely have to deal with is the pressure. This isn't your typical CCW situation where you're just trying to put shots on center mass as fast and accurately as you possibly can to stop a threat. In a hostage situation, understand you're not just aiming at a threat. You're aiming near another person, and one wrong move could be the reason that hostage ends up 6 feet underneath. Now, while all this was just training exercise to help me and some of you better understand what it might be like for a civilian who conceal carries to really grasp the importance of not only train to shoot center mass on steel or paper targets, but also spend time working on precision shooting. And while it's extremely rare that you'll ever find yourself dealing with a hostage situation with nothing but your CCW, it's still a scenario I believe is worth training for, not just to understand your weapon, but also because it allows you to understand yourself and see how well you can perform under pressure while giving you the opportunity to figure out the areas you need to practice on. So that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing some CCW drills, make sure to check out my Instagram at ShadowTheWicked. Also, if you want to get in contact with me, that's a great place. But other than that, hope you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe and God bless.